expressed during the related show are those of the show personalities and guest alone, and not those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Welcome to Soul Care with your host, Lori Vassi, where healing meets the heart. This show dives into all things wellness, from holistic and spiritual healing to expert insights on health and self-care. Get ready for meaningful conversations, special guests, and inspiration for your journey to well-being. If you have any questions about home health care or want to continue the conversation, contact Lori today at 561-821-5811 or visit sunshinehomecareservices.com. Let's begin.
Welcome to the Sunshine Home Care Services podcast. Today, we're here to talk about health, wellness, and longevity. I'm so grateful to be here with my co-host, Lori Vassi. I'm Anna Rispo, and this is my co-host, Lori.
Very good evening, everyone. I'm Lori, the founder and owner of Sunshine Home Care Services, and tonight we are here on a very special night, actually, when we have a very special guest. But before that, we want to introduce a little bit again and remind you what we do and why we are doing these shows and why we are so excited to be here every other Thursday to inspire you, to educate you, to bring you guests that will make a difference and will leave a spot a very important spot in your on the back of your head. Tonight we have a very special guest, and I'm not only honored, I'm overwhelmed and happy, and I cannot wait to introduce you, Mr. Doug.
Thank you.
And a little bit about yourself. I would love you to take the introduction because enough words I won't have. I will take the 27 minutes to introduce you, and I would love to hear about you a little bit, what you do.
Sure. So I've been in the profession now for about 40 years, better part of my life. I've probably traveled to over 40 different countries, speaking around the world, teaching people about wellness and alternative medicine, and teaching people about choices. I used to be the health and wellness consultant for Good Morning America, Good Morning New York, the Regis and Kathy Lee show, and I used to be the on-air as well for the Joan Rivers show for many years. I've trained and been involved with such celebrities as Sylvester Stallone, Tony Goldwyn, Eddie Murphy, Mariah Carey, just to name a few. So it's been a real privilege and a real honor to take the road that I have for all of these years and to be able to influence, inspire, and help many people throughout the course of their lives.
How amazing is that? You have published as well over 200 articles.
Correct.
As well.
Published articles, and I also have a best-selling book called Tell Me, Teach Me, Heal Me, How to Get Healthy Before You Die Trying. Became a bestseller in literally 78 hours. And I had a follow-up book, How to Survive and Thrive Long COVID as well. Both incredibly blessed for them to have been able to take off so well.
Speaking about COVID, eh?
Yes.
We're doing that. We are not doing that. Mm-hmm. Not just yet. But you've worked with lots of performers with people like everyday alike. And on your view, what are the people doing wrong? What actually takes to achieve a sustainable health? Because I want to focus on the health first because we are targeting the senior community, as I'm specialized in taking care of our beautiful seniors. And I would love to hear you out. What is the sustainable health and how do you achieve that?
Sure.
From people that can afford and people can everyday alike.
Sure. First and foremost, you have to understand we don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system. And fundamentally, that's the first problem. Big pharmaceutical companies aren't interested in getting people healthy. If they do, they lose a customer. Not too long ago, I interviewed one of the presidents of Goldman Sachs, and GlaxoSmithKline actually came out with a cure for a specific type of skin cancer. And the president of Goldman Sachs came to them and said, we don't recommend you release this to the public. Why? Because you'll lose customers and you'll lose money. It's not a good business model. So there's not a bunch of guys in a boardroom right now trying to figure out how to cure type 2 diabetes. If anything, they're in there trying to figure out how do we keep people on medication for a lifelong of just being a customer for us. And therein lies the problem, number one. Number two, we are a society that are over-medicated and over-consumptive. And the fundamental problem there is most people are malnourished and literally do not get the amount of nutrients that they need to on a daily basis, especially seniors. And seniors happen to be a passion of mine because I believe that they're overdiagnosed, over-medicated. We cast them out in our society, unlike many other countries in this world. And unfortunately, we set them aside and really don't pay mind and don't pay attention to them. We're happy giving them 4 or 5 medications, or even more, which the average of a 70-year-old right now is 6 different medications, which to me is criminal. So what I am about is how do we get people off of medications, living a happy, healthy life, adding years to their life and life to their years.
And this is where I have a question, because this is my biggest challenge is the medication management, and where I use the AI now, inspired by another interviewer that we had, and using AI, you actually put together everything, and I find that the side effects and the bad juju of everything they mix up, and it's such a bad recipe. It's a recipe for failure. And how do you get off? And how do you get on that path where it's a detox, it's a rehab? And how do you convince them? And this is the process where I have challenges having them taking like things that they don't have.
Sure.
But they're addicted to it.
Sure.
And how do you have that conversation with them? And how do you even come to an understanding that what is right and what is wrong, and not only the doctor is in charge of helping them and
Sure. So the first thing I do is I do very specialized blood work. The kind of blood work I do is very different than what most doctors do. Most doctors, you will go and you will actually get your blood drawn, and in 2 to 3 days you'll get your blood work back. That's called intraserum work. So it's only indicative of what's going on in your system for the past 7 to 10 days. It's not telling us what's in the cell membrane. When I do blood work, we actually extrapolate the cells, we grow them in petri dishes so that we can actually see what the cell membrane is absorbing or not absorbing. And we do this over the course of 2 weeks. And that is called intracellular. Why is it different? Because the old adage, you are what you eat, isn't necessarily true. You are what you absorb. And I'll give you, for instance, probably several months ago, I had an ER physician come to me. Wasn't feeling particularly great. Here's a guy who was a vegetarian for 10 years, lived a very healthy lifestyle. To look at him, you think he was the epitome of great health. I did the blood work on him, and he came back with one of the worst tests I've ever seen.
Wow.
And he said, but how could that be? Look at the way I eat. Look at the way I live. I said, because at some point, you took an antibiotic or an anti-inflammatory, an Advil, a Tylenol, and it destroyed an area of your gut called the microbiome. The microbiome is what science is finally admitting is 75% of your immune system. So that's everywhere in the gut where everything either gets absorbed or doesn't get absorbed. So that's a main area of my focus, especially when it comes to seniors or anybody that comes to me. So how do we convince people to get off of their medications? Pretty simple. First of all, I look for the depletions, because every single medication that they take is going to create a nutrient depletion in their body. You give me a medication, I'll give you 4 or 5 different depletions. B vitamins, magnesiums, potassium, different metabolites, CoQ10. All of those have a cascading effect in the body of side effects. They're not even side effects. They're direct effects of the medication. And the majority of the medication that people are taking as a consequence of the first or second medication because of the direct effects that they have. Believe it or not, most of the time, with the help of some of the other people in my team, we'll tell people that are on 7, 8 different medications, that have brain fog, cognitive dysfunction, joint problems, get off all medications, off of them, everything. And literally within 3 weeks' time, everything starts to reverse itself.
That was my next question. How long does it take? How long is the process on cellular level to, for instance, Advil, I get headaches, and I can't tolerate pain, and I take Advil, and I feel the side effects for days after. And it makes so much sense now when you said that it's the gut and on my cellular level where I'm almost hangover. I get like, nothing takes my headache away, nothing. I take an Advil, I'm good, and the next day I'm Advil hangover.
Okay, so that's screaming to me nutrient depletions. You probably depleted of magnesium, you're more than likely mildly dehydrated, you're probably drinking water that's incredibly acidic, so it's also creating an imbalance in your body. So it's all about, again, creating this homeostasis in the body so that the body has the ability to be able to heal itself and balance itself out. Look, you weren't born with a shortage of Tylenol or a shortage of Advil in your body, okay? The power that made the body can heal the body, but you have to put the body in the right state of balance to be able to heal itself. You cut yourself. How does that wound heal itself? How does it stop bleeding, okay? Miraculously, the innate ability of the body is able to do it. Well, the same thing when you get a headache, when you get a stomach ache, but you're not giving it the right ingredients. Instead, you're putting a Band-Aid on it by giving it Advil. And then eventually, your body builds up a tolerance to that Advil. You may have to take a little bit more. You may have to take a Tylenol, which, by the way, according to the CDC, there is more liver failure in this country as a result of Tylenol toxicity than any other drug in this country. So it is the #1 drug for liver failure, but you don't see that in the media.
And look at the kids.
Right.
I like feeding kids Tylenol,
Right.
PM it's incredible.
Yes.
I'm learning and I'm educating myself every day. I change my water system.
Good for you.
I do PM right now. I'm taking it before sleep, ashwagandha, and I used to have big problems sleeping. And I'm trying to get more and more discipline.
Good.
Because it's the rush through the day that diverts me. And sparkling water, as you said, like acidity, like not only in the tap water, but we are Europeans. But I'm getting more and more disciplined with my supplements, especially after I got actually a couple of tests done, and they didn't come out as I wish they did. But you are an inspiration.
But you see, you don't even know if you're absorbing those supplements.
I don't even know if I'm doing that.
So that's why I do the kind of testing that I do. First and foremost, I get over 60 different biomarkers. So I know exactly what your depletions are and how do we correct those depletions. That's how we bring the body back into balance. So just because you're taking something doesn't necessarily mean that you're absorbing it. So it's trying to understand, again, what the body's needs are. And the body's always giving you, okay, subtle signs. So it's paying attention to those signs. Headache, like I said, mild dehydration, magnesium deficiency, the right kind of magnesium. There's several kinds of magnesiums out there. Unfortunately, the majority of magnesiums that you find in a health food store are the wrong kinds. It's the cheapest form that the body can absorb, and it is very bioavailable. So most people will think, okay, let me go to Costco, let me go to the vitamin shop, let me buy because it's a better price. Centrum vitamins, for instance, are one of the worst vitamins that you could possibly take. I have a dear friend of mine who owns a porta potty company, and he said one of the things he cleans out, most of all, are undigested Centrum vitamins.
Wow.
So I always say to people, don't waste your money, okay?
But
don't
how incredible
test.
that is that when you get sick, you don't realize that investing a little bit more in a proper supplement,
Sure.
it's going to prevent you, and prevention is the key word in order to feel better. And I started like 2-3 years ago, like during pandemic actually, when I started having a little bit of anxiety here and there, like lack of sleepiness. That was my biggest problem. I couldn't sleep at night. Okay. And when I started with the magnesium and I started resting, I started feeling good, and then B supplements, C supplements, I do it all, and I do it all from Symbiotica, as I said. And it's costing me a lot, but my life changed completely.
Good for you.
I feel better. Of course, these deficiencies did not come. They came by surprise because I think I do everything right. Nutrition is a problem. I don't eat properly. I don't eat right. I rush through the day. What do you recommend when it comes to nutrition? When it comes to food, because that is such an important part of our living, to be able to, and I know for sure it costs me less when I focus on my nutrition, and as you said, prepping twice a week, it costs me less than when I eat through, just rushed and go out and grab this, grab that. So what do you recommend, and how do you think people should, a calendar, prep, where do you buy your food as well? It's so important for us.
Sure. So, the great thing is you can go to places like Costco now that does have an incredible variety of organic foods and organic vegetables. Most people will say, well, there's not really a big difference between organic and conventional. I beg to differ, and I'll debate anybody on this subject. First and foremost, you could actually take a head of broccoli from 25 years ago, okay, and measure it to a head of broccoli today, and it will be 50% less nutrient dense. Why? Because we're not replenishing our soils with all of the different nutrients that we need to actually grow healthy vegetables. That's number one. Number two, we're also exposed to a tremendous amount of chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, fungicides. So we're constantly being bombarded by all of these different chemicals on a daily basis. I spoke at a medical convention not too long ago, and a couple of doctors started to debate me saying, you don't need to detox your body. Your body has all of the necessary organs that it needs to be able to detox. Lungs, liver, spleen. And I said, okay, then maybe you can answer a question for me. There was just recently a study done at the University of Michigan of 110 newborn placentas. And out of all of the placentas, there was an average of 65% toxic chemicals in them. And the majority of those were flame retardants, coming from the furniture we sit on, the carpeting we walk on, the paint that we put on our walls, and that gets lodged into the adipose tissue in our bodies. And then eventually you have what I call a toxic tipping point. So everybody will say, well, I don't get affected by it. Why is that? We're all different. Again, we're biochemically different. What works for you is not going to work for me and is not going to work for you. You have to figure out what works for each person. And you detox in 4 different ways. Respiration, perspiration, urination, defecation. You have to make sure that all of those functions in the body are functioning at a high level. So to answer your question, moderation, not deprivation when it comes to food. It's understanding if somebody comes to me, they're used to eating hamburgers, hot dogs, and junk food. Look, I'm not going to switch them to a completely 360 diet overnight. I need to give them a healthy hamburger, a healthy hot dog to eat, which, by the way, there are out there. Try to switch them gradually to all organic rather than conventional, certainly not genetically modified, which again wreaks havoc on the body, and then slowly lead them to where I want them to go. Sneak in what they need so it cuts down the things that they want. That's my motto.
That's amazing. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back. Thank you. This is amazing. Thank you so much.
Receive the very best in home care. At Sunshine Home Care Services, our mission is simple yet profound: to support and enhance the lives of our clients. We genuinely enhance the quality of life and offer a comprehensive suite of 26 services tailored to meet every need. We go beyond the basics with health monitoring, emotional support, pet care, and home safety checks. Sunshine Home Care Services is more than just a service. It's a partnership in care. We invite you to experience the difference a compassionate team can make. For a personal consultation, call us today at 561-821-5811.
Do you want the opportunity to have a TV show or podcast? Now, at Amp Media Productions, you can host your very own visual broadcast anywhere around the world. With our talented group of creators, we will provide you with show elements, board operations, and any on-screen visuals you'd like to showcase. All you must do is log onto your computer and communicate with your viewers. Contact Amp Media Productions at 866-224-5422 or email hello@amp2.tv to start your own show today.
Welcome back to Soul Care with Lori Vassi, where we explore the power of healing, mind, body, and soul. If you have any questions about home health care or want to continue the conversation, contact Lori today at 561-821-5811 or visit sunshinehomecareservices.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back. Dr. Caporrino, you've worked with everyday families and Hollywood's most elite performers. So what are we getting wrong about what it takes to achieve sustainable health?
Great question. Consistency, number one, focus, and a little bit of discipline. More often than not, because we're a quick fix society, people always want immediate results. And what I always say to people is, think about how long it took you to get out of shape, okay? You didn't get like this overnight. That's number one. For somebody that wakes up with heart disease all of a sudden one day, or cancer, it didn't happen starting yesterday. Your cancer started 10, 15 years ago. Your heart disease started 20 years ago. But the proper diagnostic testing was never performed to give you a heads up to know, look, this is what's coming down the pike, and this is what possibly is in your future. So consistency is the name of the game. I always like to say 80-20 rule. So that means if you're eating, for instance, 21 meals a week, On average, just like. That's if the average person is eating 3 meals a day. So at 4 or 5 of those meals could be little indulgences. It could be a little bit more as far as a dessert or something that's a little bit more of a junk food if you want. Although I highly recommend you don't go there. But again, trying to get something as far as a healthy food would be a little bit better. Consistency is the name of the game. Again, making sure that people can stay focused on it, keep their eye on the ball, and understand that, look, you never know how bad you're feeling until you start to feel good.
Yeah, great advice. I definitely think people don't understand how bad it gets until it gets bad, and then they just...
Well, people wait for crisis to hit.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, before they actually make a turnaround. And part of the problem also is I have a lot of people that come to me with cancer. And they'll come to me as a last resort. And one of my mentors was actually a great doctor out of Sloan Kettering, who literally would have people showing up at his door once he quit Sloan Kettering and opened up his own practice that would have stage 4 pancreatic cancer, brain cancer, everything. When Sloan Kettering, Mayo Clinic would say, go home and call hospice, they'd go to him. And he would say, if you're not willing to do exactly what I tell you to do, I'll give you cab fare to go back to the hospital. And it was all about nutrition and supplementation. That's how he cured cancer. I have somebody that's been with me now for over 7 years, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and the guy is doing fabulous. But he made a complete 360 in his life. So what do I mean by that? A lot of times people come to me, again, we wait for crisis to hit. They have cancer. I'll do anything I have to do. Great. They make the necessary changes. They change the menu. They change their lifestyle. They meditate. Better water, better air, better everything. Then all of a sudden the cancer goes into remission 6, 7, 8 months down the road. You know what? I'll have a Diet Coke. Maybe I'll have that hamburger that I've been missing. Maybe I'll have a little bit of piece of candy. All of a sudden they start reverting back to their old ways. Well, what you're doing is recreating that same environment that created the problem in the first place. So you have to recreate a totally different environment if you want a totally different result, okay, period. And that's my belief. You can't stay in the same environment that created the problem in the first place.
Yeah, that's a really great response. Thank you so much. I have one other question. So if someone was to have like genetic disorders and whatnot, be having issues or possible disease to become about because of it, if they came to you and told you, you would be able to help them possibly?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I don't believe in genetics.
Okay.
There was a large study done many years ago called the Human Genome Project. They followed 40,000 people over the course of 20 years. Do you know what they said was the percentage that your genes played in your future health? Less than 10%. Less than 10%. But so many of us blame our genes on our health. Well, I'm heavy because I have bad genes. I have a bad heart because I have bad genes. That's not true. You change through something called epigenetics. Epigenetics is the study of genome versus phenome, meaning your environment versus what you're doing on a daily basis. You can change the way those genes express themselves. They have an on and off switch. You decide whether or not those bad genes get turned on or get turned off through your lifestyle. Every single time you take a bite of something or take a drink of something, there are thousands of chemical reactions going on in the body.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I know
truly in
Anna's
awe,
been
learning
waiting
a lot.
for this interview a lot, and I'm telling you, I have a question, and this is something that I'm fascinated. And obviously, you posted something this morning about Parkinson's and kids, and you posted that a study of out of University of Utah found a striking 8.6-fold increase in Parkinson's risk among the individuals treated with stimulant medication for ADHD. What does it suggest about the long-term cost of symptoms-based treatment models, and how do we begin to pivot toward the root cause?
The great news is that with this new administration, there's a lot of new things coming down the pike. We're looking at a lot of different alternative methods that people are going to now have available to them. Medications, as we know, have long-term side effects. So not only between the medications, but also because of the amount of chemicals that we're exposed to on a daily basis. Every single year, there's 3,000 new toxic chemicals that are released into the environment. Plus, there's another 80,000 that are unregulated. So we're being bombarded by this on a daily basis. And if you doubt me, this is what I always say. I always give people homework because I want to engage people. There's a fabulous movie, okay, it came out many years ago, and it's a well, it's not a documentary, but it's based on a true story. And it's called Dark Waters. It's about one attorney's fight to go after DuPont Big Chemical. I encourage everybody to watch it because it will change the way you live on a daily basis. So getting back to your question, it's because of the bombardment of all of these chemicals that we're seeing arise in Parkinson's, in Alzheimer's, in all of these different diseases. And a lot of the times, it's not the disease itself, because by the way, they're some of the most misdiagnosed diseases in the United States. More often than not, it's heavy metal toxicity. For instance, I had somebody come to me that was diagnosed with ALS. He went to 3 of the top doctors in New York City, all confirmed you have ALS. This guy was devastated. He literally went home, made out his will, thought this was the end of it. Somebody encouraged him, please, I'll pay for you, go see this gentleman. He came to me, I did an hour-long intake on him. No doctors bothered to ask him what he did early on in his life. This gentleman worked in a paint factory.
Oh my God.
He was exposed to a tremendous amount of toxic chemicals. Nobody ever did a heavy metal test on him. We did a heavy metal test on him. He was rampant in several heavy metals. We chelated the heavy metals out of his body. He never had ALS.
Wow.
Never did. And I could tell you story after story like that with Parkinson's, with MS, with all of the other different diseases that are more often than not misdiagnosed in our society. And that's the other fundamental problem too. People are being overdiagnosed and given just a tremendous amount of medications, which creates a cascading effect in their ill health.
I can't thank you enough. We have 1 minute to go, but I want to thank you, Doctor, from the bottom of my heart for inspiring us today, educating us today. And I hope our seniors are live and listening how easy it is to get off and be on track and get disciplined. And how can we find you? And I know you have a long list of listeners and followers, and we would love, I get inspired every morning, so
Great.
we would love all of us to know how can we find you in the books as well.
Sure.
And
Sure. So my website is dougcaporrino.com, CAPORRINO. My book can be found on my website, or it can be found on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I also blog daily on Instagram, Facebook, all of the social media platforms, so you can follow me on there. And you can also sign up for my weekly educator, also on my website, which is free, and it's actually read on every single continent in the world.
Anna?
To our listeners, whether you're a caregiver, family member, or just listening, we hope that you really enjoyed this episode and it inspires you to explore what true wellness and home-based care will look like. Until next time, stay well and remember, personalized care is not a luxury. It's the future of healthcare.
Thank you for watching this episode of Soul Care. We hope today's conversation inspired you on your path to healing and wellness. Remember, true well-being starts from within. If you have any questions about home health care or want to continue the conversation, contact Lori today at 561-821-5811 or visit sunshinehomecareservices.com. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of others, and take care of your soul.